Hi there, my name is Vic Veer. I'm an ENT consultant working for the NHS in central London, and today this is the third video of three about a Globus sensation. What I've been doing is going through three separate videos talking about this feeling of a lump in your throat. That's what Globus is. And a lot of people have this problem, and we often see it in the ENT department as well. So what I've been going through is the most common causes of Globus sensation, how to treat that. That was in the first video. And then the slightly more esoteric causes in the second video. And I did want to put more effort into this third video to explain all the different causes which I haven't covered so far. But I've been listening to all the feedback and all the emails I've been getting from people saying, look, you've talked too much. We don't want to hear about the causes, just focus on the treatment, which is fine. So what I'll be doing is I'll be breezing over some of the things I didn't mention so that you're aware at least that there can be other causes of Globus, which I haven't mentioned in the other two videos. So one of the things we should be talking about is brain disorders, anything that causes a problem with the throat, because if the throat isn't working very well, then it's not squeezing and pushing the food down. It feels like food gets stuck. And all of these issues can cause or feel like there's a problem with a lump in the throat. So when I say brain disorders, I'm thinking about things like strokes, bulbar palsy, Parkinson's, dementias, multiple sclerosis, motor neuron disease, all sorts of things that can cause this problem. But it doesn't have to be something as serious as that. Sometimes as one gets older, the contraction or the coordination of the muscles at the back of the throat aren't quite as good as they used to be. And you get things like tertiary contractions in the esophagus where it doesn't quite squeeze the food down as before, and things can get stuck as the muscles don't work quite so well. And then the other things I wanted to talk about were endocrine causes. Endocrine causes are things that disrupt the hormones and the chemicals in your body, such as something known as a pheochromocytoma, which is a little tumor that releases all sorts of adrenaline or adrenaline-like substances. And that adrenaline can go around your body and make you feel like your throat's tightening up, like you get very anxious. Also, there is the adrenal gland, which can have small tumors in it. They don't have to be cancerous, but they can shoot out things like cortisol, again, adrenal because it's adrenal next to the kidneys. And it can produce all these substances that can make you feel like there's a lump in your throat. On top of that, there's a condition known as hyperthyroidism. This is the thyroid gland here, and it produces something known as thyroxine, which can be caused by all sorts of things in the thyroid gland, like autoimmune diseases, or the gland is just producing too much because there's a little tumor in there, producing all this thyroxine. Any reason why this is producing too much thyroxine can make you feel very anxious, make you feel like your throat's swelling up, and you feel like you've got a lump in your throat. And this is very, very common. Now, what I've done is I've just breezed over all of that because I guess you could just get my emails, which I'm slowly writing one by one. And I'm up to autoimmune diseases, I think, in the second video. So by the time, hopefully, when you see this, there'll be more emails coming through. I'll explain to you all these little conditions one by one, and I can give you that information if you sign up for my email newsletter, which talks about Globus sensation, and it'll be in the video description below. So the last thing I wanted to talk about before I got onto the actual treatment of Globus sensation in these other conditions is to do with sort of psychological problems that can lead to a feeling of a lump in your throat. Now, often I don't believe that people get very anxious and then start getting a Globus sensation. I think it's often a combination of things. But we do know from studies that people who are relatively anxious compared to other people and who may get tonsillitis or a problem with heartburn, which is in some of the other videos I've talked about, they can get very anxious because they're worried that this could be something more serious than it actually is. And so you get the LPR problem, which I talked about in the first video. On top of that, they feel quite anxious about this feeling and they think there's maybe a tumor or something in their throat. And that can set off a lot of tension in their throat and those muscles at the back of their throat. So along with the LPR problems we talked about in the first video, and then the muscle tension on top, those two things combined can make things rather difficult because although you're treated perhaps for these other conditions that you had in the first place, the feeling of a lump in your throat stays because all the muscles aren't working very well or are very, very tight and you get a lot of tension in your throat. And that can lead to problems later on, which doesn't seem to resolve with all the treatments I've talked about in these other videos. And it doesn't have to be all psychological. There are problems like heart problems, lung problems, diabetes, sleep apnea. All of these things cause a feeling of stress and anxiety in our bodies. These things can make this feeling of a lump in your throat worse. So what I'll be doing now, the rest of this video, is just describing some of the simple things you can do at home before you see a ENT doctor or a gastroenterologist, any of the people that deal with the Globus sensation, and hopefully they will help you a little bit. So what I've done is I've looked at the medical literature, looked at the things that actually seem to improve the feeling of a lump in your throat, not including the treatment for particular diseases and conditions which I've talked about already. So simple things like not smoking. Smoking causes an awful lot of inflammation in your throat. So reducing that can help people with a feeling of a globus sensation. Losing weight. Now, sometimes people think that actually losing weight seems to be reducing the amount of acid, because if you've got more weight on board, there's more pressure on your stomach, and therefore stomach acid and also pepsin, the enzyme from your stomach, can come up and cause a feeling of a lump in your throat. But it's not always like that. Sometimes losing weight down to your sort of normal BMI, around about 22, 23, you can look at BMI on the internet, it's very easy. But once you're at a normal weight, a lot of people with globus sensation do seem to feel a bit better. Now, I have mentioned in the past that people with a feeling of a lump in their throat often sort of clear their throat and cough frequently to try and clear something from the back of the throat. Now, a lot of people say, don't clear your throat when you have this problem. Try your best to avoid that, because that sort of fast expulsion of air past your vocal cords can cause irritation to the vocal cords and can make you feel like that causes inflammation, feels like there's a lump there. So do try and avoid that. Suppress that urge whenever you feel like you need to cough. Instead of that, drink some water. A lot of people say that seems to help them better, because drinking water not only makes you less dehydrated, but also gets rid of that feeling of a cough in your throat. Now, often you have to walk around with a bottle all day, and that's rather a bit of a pain. But if you do that, it does seem to help. And also the other advantage of drinking plenty of water is that you stay hydrated, and the saliva that you produce won't be as thick and sticky, and it goes down a little smoother rather than getting sort of claggy at the back of your throat. Now, there are quite a lot of papers that show that people with a globus sensation, even though they don't report any stress, they do feel better once they've had some sort of relaxation techniques. And I've looked at the sort of the different types of relaxation techniques, and I will go into this in more detail in another video I'm doing in terms of insomnia with some friends of mine. But particularly things like meditation, progressive muscular relaxation, which I'll talk about in this other video. There are, however, a lot of papers out there that talk about speech therapy techniques that help a feeling of a globus sensation. And I think I do understand this. People who, for whatever reason, have got a lot of muscle tension either in their voice box or in the pharynx or the throat muscles, that tension makes you feel like there's still something going on in there. And so these exercises, as far as I understand, seem to relax those muscles, so all the tension comes out of your throat and your neck. So I'll have to warn you now, I'm not a speech and language therapist by any means whatsoever, but I have looked at the papers and I've seen a bunch of exercises which seem to work in different people and in different research studies. So I'll go through them, and I'm sorry if I get this wrong and I upset some speech and language therapists, but this is the best I could do with my limited knowledge about these exercises. As far as I understand, there are two different types. There's one with the neck muscles themselves, and actually a lot of people sort of understand this. It's sort of like stretching your neck really tight, holding it there for a few seconds, and maybe also turn it to one side, hold it for a few seconds till you feel the strain, and then letting go. So maybe once in the middle, maybe 3 or 4 seconds, hold it there and then relax, and just make sure it just relaxes afterwards. And then maybe going to the sides as well. A lot of people also say that when you're stretching up like this, swallowing like that seems to open up the airways a little bit. Or should I not open up the airways so much as sort of releasing some of those muscles at the back of the throat. Another thing I found was when you use a towel, and what you're meant to do is put it underneath your chin like this. This is going to look ridiculous. And you push down like this. And then in that position, you're meant to swallow, which again is really hard to do whilst you're trying to talk. But you push down hard with your chin on that level there. And do that a few times as well. That's meant to sort of open up the muscles as well. It seems weird that there are some papers that say that this works and some papers that say it doesn't work. But I mean, it's not going to hurt you. That's the main thing. There are also quite a few papers on something known as the Mendelssohn maneuver, which is where you look at your voice box or the thyroid cartilage, that sort of Adam's apple area. And if you put your finger on it, you can feel that when you swallow, it sort of goes up a little bit and then comes back down. And what you're meant to do in this exercise is that you're meant to swallow, hold it there at its highest peak where the thyroid notch goes up, and then hold it there for about 3 seconds or so, and then relax it down, have a break, and then do it again. You're meant to do that about 20 times twice a day. And that seems to open up the airways, particularly the area where you swallow. So you sort of swallow, and then you hold it there. I can't talk at the same time, just realized. But you hold it there for a few seconds and then relax and then repeat it and do it again. The longer, the better, but you just need to let it settle down again. And don't get yourself into a cramp either, apparently. Just hold it there for as long as you can, maybe 3, maybe 4 seconds, and then relax. And do that about 20 times. I don't think you should push yourself so hard that you're getting muscle strain, because that's the exact opposite. We're just trying to open up these muscles. Now, lots of those exercises I've talked about are to do with the throat muscles and also the cricopharyngeus, the muscle down the bottom here. But there are other exercises which are more to do with the larynx or the voice box, which can also get into an awful lot of tension. Apparently, one of the best ways to deal with it is to have a straw. And I bought this straw. I got a glass one because I worry about plastic and I don't like cutting up loads of trees for straws. So you can buy this, I can't remember how much it was, I think it was £4. And you get a little cleaner as well, which is nice. But I'll leave a link to that, that's easy to use. But you get a straw and you're meant to put it right in the middle of your mouth. Again, I'm sorry, I'm not a speech and language therapist, but I hope this works. But you put it in your mouth like this and then you can just breathe in, hold it there for a few seconds and then relax. And do that a few times as well. This also exercises the respiratory muscles as well and the diaphragm. You can do the opposite as well, but most of the papers I saw seem to be breathing in rather than breathing out. So, and holding it there for a few seconds. More on the vocal side, there are people who sort of sing through the middle of this. And that, look, I am not a singer in any way. And you'll notice this in a minute when I try. But what you're meant to do is sort of sing through this straw and go for an increasing pitch and then go down again. This is so embarrassing. Okay, here we go. So it's like sort of like okay. And that's meant to be quite useful just to release the vocal cords as well. I think singers use a similar technique as well. But the idea is that you go up, hold it there for a little bit and come back down. And it just sort of opens up these muscles. I'll just show you again. So another thing you can do is go like this. And let's see if this works out. So it's, I'm not a singer. So, but people who are sort of feeling that it may be their voice box, that is meant to be quite useful. So doing those exercises back and forth. Actually, I've just realized turning left is not a good idea, or turning right. So stay in the midline because it puts strain on one side. So, but it just looks silly in front of this. So I'm not going to do that again because it's just so embarrassing. And I'm sure there are better videos on YouTube which describe these straw techniques and all those things in a little bit more detail. But those are the things that I found that had some sort of research behind them and showed that they actually helped people with a Globus sensation. So all of these things, the smoking, drinking water, not coughing, and these exercises with the straw and without the straw, and the sort of the neck massage and things like that, those are useful. Oh, I think I've forgotten neck massage. Sorry, neck massages where you just stretch your neck out and just do this. Now, the only reason I didn't mention that is I'm a bit worried because your carotid arteries here and here are the main blood vessels that go to your brain. Now, if you press here, in some people particularly, you can feel a little bit faint because there's something known as the carotid body. So although the laryngeal massage or sort of rubbing and massaging your neck seems to help people with a Globus sensation, it's not something I feel like I feel safe to advocate. And maybe it's best to see someone who is an expert at these things and won't cause you problems with a carotid body, making you faint because it drops your blood pressure if you press too hard on one side. So I'm sorry I omitted that, but there is stuff on the internet that you can look at that about laryngeal massage, again with Globus sensation. And obviously I haven't gone through all the other things we talked about in the first 2 videos. So to deal with pepsin and having an alginate sort of raft, all those things that I talked about in the first videos, and the second video I talked about all the little tiny things that can happen, like a strange epiglottis or a large lingual tonsil. All those things can cause a Globus sensation. So I think you really need to be checked out. It's really important that you go and see someone who knows what they're talking about in terms of Globus sensation, all the different causes it could cause. But these are things that aren't going to hurt you. Stopping smoking, losing weight, and doing these exercises aren't going to hurt you. But it may be worth seeing someone who really knows what they're talking about when it comes to these things. Now, before you go, because you think this is the end of the video, it is pretty much the end of the video, but I want to talk about this event that I'm holding in London. So if you'd like to know more about all these causes I've talked about in terms of Globus, the feeling of lumpy throat, cough, LPR, inlet patches, all the things I've talked about, I'm holding an event in London where you can come see me and a few other consultants, and we'll give lectures out so you can understand more about this. And between each lecture, you can talk to us. And if you have any sort of personal questions and, what do I do about this situation, we can try and help you as best we can. So obviously it's quite difficult without examining everyone, but I'm hoping that this will be useful for people who want to know a little bit more than what these videos, these emails and anything else you can get from my newsletter. So if you're interested, I'm hoping to hold it at the Royal College of Chemistry, I think. And I tried to get something closer to King's Cross or Euston because it's easy for people from the north to get down, but it's way too expensive. Luckily, I've got plenty of people on the waiting list. I think I'm sort of slightly oversubscribed. But if you are interested, I think I can bring the price down to about just under £100, hopefully. So if you'd like to come for this meeting, so it's in central London, I think it's going to be on Thursday, the 6th of July. That's what I'm hoping for. Please do sign up for the link below, register your interest, and I think it'll be on a first come, first served sort of basis because I think there are too many people. I don't want to make hundreds of people turning up. That's just over the top. And I also wanted to say that although it's £90, if enough people turn up and I somehow make a profit, that profit will go to charity. So we're not going to be trying to make any money from this. This will hopefully go to a good cause. And maybe if you're interested in this sort of thing and you know a good cause around a Globus sensation, I'll send the money to a local or a charity in England about a Globus sensation. Anyway, I really hope you found this video and all the other 3 videos useful. Please, if you know someone who's got a feeling with a lump in their throat, tell them about these 3 videos. I'll put the other videos here, and here, and goodbye. I'll stop waffling. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.